Have they started? I can't. I'm not hearing anything. Hmm.
We're muted on Zoom. We are.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Okay, I can hear you now.
We can't hear the speakers though.
Ashley, I have the cat in here.
It's garbled. Oh, we can.
I can I can hear you fine, Steve. United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like. I have to read some documents into to the record. Community Development Block Grant funds are available to municipalities through New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority. Up to $500,000 annually is available for economic development projects, up to $500,000 for public facility, up to $500,000 for housing project, and up to $500,000 for emergency activities. Up to $25,000 is available per planning study grant. All projects must directly benefit a majority of low and moderate income persons. Community Development Block Grant COVID CDBG CV funds were authorized under the CARES Act. Up to $500,000 in CDBG CV funding is available to municipalities. Funding is available to municipalities for new services or a quantifiable increase in the level of service above that which has been provided during the 12 months prior to the application, both which must be attributed to COVID-19 pandemic. CDBG CV funding is also available to nonprofit services organizations as sub-applicants to the municipality associated with prepping for, responding to, or recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Activities must serve primarily low and moderate income persons. This is an application for the CDBG-CV public service. Eligible expenses for the municipality include but not limited to increased welfare costs, increased homeless housing costs, and new services provided by the municipalities attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. Eligible nonprofit per public service expenses include costs preparing for, responding to, or recovering from COVID-19 pandemic, included but not limited to child care services, food banks, senior services, services for persons with disabilities, legal services, resident services, youth services, transportation services, health and mental health, and substance abuse services, financial literacy, foreclosure, and home buyer counseling, homeless services, education outside of school building, tutoring, furniture, equipment, and additional services provided. The second is the Community Development Block Grant funds are also available to municipalities through New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority. Up to $500,000 annually is available for economic development projects, up to $500,000 for public facilities projects, up to $500,000 for housing projects, up to $350,000 for emergency activities, and up to $25,000 available for planning study grant. All CDBG projects must directly benefit lower and moderate income persons. A proposed application for Community Development Finance Authority for up to $25,000 in Community Block Grant Planning Study funds to benefit by linked together program for a proposed daycare. The planning study will finance an income survey, a property appraisal and review appraisal, and structural analysis for an existing building versus new construction, preliminary design, construction cost estimates, and an environmental review. This project confirms with the Newmarket Housing and Community Development Plan's goal to encourage improve social services, which provides assistance to low and moderate income persons, short-term and long-term goal. And that would be, now we'd ask for comments from,
Can I comment? can I add a little bit to this and say exactly what we're asking for the CDBG CV funds, Steve? Is that all right?
It's the chair's decision.
Okay, so we have to inform the public of who's asking for funds under this and what they're asking for it for and how much. So we have the town of Newmarket Welfare is asking for $8,000 for emergency assistance. Town of Newmarket, the Recreation Senior Services is asking for $69,000 for a bus. The town of Newmarket Recreation Childcare is asking for $45,000 for staff, equipment, and scholarships. The Newmarket Housing Authority, which is low and income, moderate income housing, is asking for $100,000. Wi-Fi accessibility, educational support, tutors for their kids on site. Newmarket Community Church, which is a service providers, the food pantry and emergency assistance. They're asking for $79,300 for food, cleaning, and emergency assistance. And then there's $25,000 for administration of the project. So the total request for the CDBG CV is $326,300.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment? Then I will close public comment at 7:08. And then do we need to go through each?
That's when we vote. We're doing the minutes. Once we get to second readings, that's when we act on it. Correct? We're not voting at this point.
No.
Oh.
No, but there's a, like, so the next for linked together daycare planning, do we have to go through each individual?
No, that's just no. You just have the backup documents.
Oh, okay, perfect. Great. Then moving on, the next item is for our July 15th, 2020 non-public meeting minutes, and I would accept a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 2020 non-public meeting minutes.
And is there a second? Are there any changes or questions? We would have to potentially go into non-public to discuss those, but seeing none, if you would call the roll, please.
Council Braybeck.
Aye.
Council Sanders. Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Madam Chair.
Yes.
Council Burns. Absent.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to mention that Councilor Burns is excused this evening. She had a family commitment. Thank you. The next item is the approval of our September 2nd, 2020 meeting minutes, and I would accept a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for the September 2nd, 2020 meeting.
I'll second that.
Any questions, changes? Councilor Dumont.
Yes, I just have one. On line 213, it says Councilor Dumont said that the Ordinance Oversight Committee met on September 14th at 7 p.m. That meeting hadn't happened yet, and it actually still hasn't happened. I think it needs to read was supposed to meet, or is going to, depending on the tense.
Perfect. Seeing no other changes, if you could call the roll, please.
Council Braybeck.
Aye.
Council Sanders. Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And the next item is our September 2nd, 2020 non-public meeting minutes, and I would accept a motion to approve those.
I will make a motion to accept the September 2nd, 2020 non-public meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
And again, any questions or changes? Seeing none, if you would call the roll.
Council Braybeck.
Aye.
Council Sanders.
Aye.
Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And the next item is the report of the town manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First items I have are not in my written report. As the council is aware, we received a request from the school district late on Friday that their funding for FEMA reimbursement due to the COVID pandemic was denied. That was not uncommon across the state. We learned beginning of this week that many other municipalities received request. After meeting with the emergency management team and meeting with the finance department for the school and the business administrator for the district, we did determine that we could cover their $65,000 out of our gopher money from the state. I do want to note that many municipalities, from looking at listservs that the managers are on, are not covering it for their school districts due to the fact that they've expended most of their funds. We still will have about $121,000 remaining after the expend of the 65,000. The problem was yesterday was the deadline for the round, so we approved it quickly so they could get their funds be a chance to get reimbursed. There's one more funding round that we have until October, and so any more expenses we have, we can withdraw from that portion. So we just wanted to let the council know that we did approve their request to jump in with us. Also this week, I met with the Environmental Services Director, the District 6 engineer for the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, the Assistant Commissioner of Department of Transportation, to discuss transferring the maintenance and ownership of South Main Street 152 from the state to the town. So it basically go from Johnny Ventures, that part of Main Street down to Grant Road, would be transferred from the state to the town. We already maintain it. We already maintain the sidewalks, and we'll be digging in there shortly for the new water line project. And the state and we agree that we believe that it's beneficial that we turn that over to the town. One of the things, for example, was we had a nightmare to put up that crossing at the high school. We would not have to do that any longer because it's now a town road. We could work much easier to do that. I'm going to be working with the assistant commissioner on language. There'll be a resolution at the next meeting formally requesting from the council to transfer it from the state to the town, or endorsing it, and the commissioner is already has under her authority to be able to do so. So as soon as that happens, it'll transfer it to the town. Like I said, we already maintain the sidewalks, we already plow it due to the school, so we will be transferring that over. On my written report, the first is I want to commend the town clerk and all the volunteers and the council on their great hard work on the primary day on September 8th. Breaking down into 2 wards seemed to have improved the flow of people, and there were limited lines. As always, there's no such thing as a perfect situation. We did debrief yesterday with the moderator, supervisor checklist, the town clerk, and myself to improve for the general election, because that's going to be a whole different animal from the state primary. We are going to be having training for groups of individuals who volunteer there. One of the groups will be the town council on what they can do and roles that they may have to do during that time. So just to let the council know that, be aware of that. Just some items for the COVID-19 response. As of this writing, I will change from what was the written report. We have 2 active cases. We are closely monitoring. One of the things we're closely monitoring is the situation in Durham UNH, where they're seeing significant increases in the cases since the start of school. As you know, our concern is the spillover effect from Durham to Newmarket, and hopefully we won't see a large increase. I did want to commend the Recreation Department for stepping up to the plate by offering another service for our residents during these trying times. As many of you may have heard, the school district is not allowing the use of their facilities for after-school care. So in addition to our other after-school programs that the Recreation Department is running this fall, we decided to extend our Iguana Wanna More program that was successfully ran this summer. They're now taking registrations for an after-school care and all-day Friday care program to those same parents, plus any new parents that are in desperate need of this service. This is not only a great service to parents, but also a great opportunity to recoup some of the lost revenue. We are running the program similar to how we ran the summer camp care program, utilizing similar CDC COVID-19 guidelines that the emergency management team has already approved. Kids and staff will wear masks inside at all time. However, their plan is to keep them outside as much as they can, socially distance, and still wear masks when not actively engaged in running game. Staff will keep masks on at all times. We are considering before care right now as well. To date, there's not enough interest to make it cost effective, but they're asking parents to email them for their morning needs. If they get enough interest, they can staff it properly and they consider running it. I want to make the council aware that we'll be going through some difficult times as it relates to the fiscal year 22 budget and revenues. In March, when the pandemic hit, we froze spending on the fiscal year 20 budget and reviewed projects for the fiscal year 21 budget to see if any reductions need to be made. Thankfully, we did not see a large drop-off in revenues during the beginning of the pandemic. Taxes were paid, motor vehicles were registered, and we saw only a slight dip in our building permits. And in addition, we're still going to receive our portion of the state's room and meals tax and highway block grant. My concern, however, is for the budget being written now, fiscal year 22. While everyone was staying home during the first few months of the pandemic, the state saw a reduction in room and meals tax of over 50%, and they are anticipating a reduction in tax in August 2021 of 20% over the previous year. This means we'll see less money come back to cities and towns as well. If a second wave hits New Hampshire in the winter, we'd see additional drop in funding. In addition, we receive a highway block grant that is determined by the amount of gasoline road toll tax that is collected. In August, fuel consumption was down 12% year to date over the previous year. In comparison, in April, fuel consumption was down 36% due to COVID-19. Nobody was going anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere, we don't get the gas. In addition, we're seeing a number of businesses that closed due to the pandemic not reopen. Some are just not profitable as they were in the past. The state funds a number of other items through the business profit tax and business enterprise tax. The total cash receipt from the two primary business taxes were $55.2 million, or lower than in total from March to August. They were in the same months last year. Quarterly estimated payments, which reflect current activity rather than activity from the prior year represented in tax returns and extensions, were down $38.7 million in the March to August period relative to the prior year. The state has estimated a budget shortfall of $386 million for fiscal year 21. Also, when businesses are not profitable, the value of their buildings change as well. While currently there is a bull real estate, as we saw in the Great Recession of 2008, that can quickly change. My concern would be if businesses are no longer seeing their profits as high, they'll also come in and say their facility isn't worth the same amount, asking for an abatement and a reduction in property values. If this comes to fruition, we'd see an impact on what we can raise in taxation. I bring this up now not only for the council, but other boards in the community, that we should be budgeting with this in mind for fiscal year 22. My biggest concern is that we budget as we are now, and when we set the tax rate in October fiscal year 21, we do not have the revenues at the level we have now. If that happens, we could see a significant increase in the tax rate. The Director of Finance and Administration and I are monitoring this constantly. I don't want to panic everybody, but I want to realize that while we're feeling good times right now, well, not good times because we're still in the pandemic, but we're not as dire as we thought we were at the beginning in March. It's because the revenue is already there to pay us. The revenue may not be there come next year when we need it. So my sky is falling prediction is we need to budget tight in the fiscal year 22 because we won't have the revenues from the state next year. And if as I said, if we continue to see businesses falter, they're going to come in and ask for abatements. And if they ask for abatements, then that amount of money that we as when we came into about $1 billion worth of valuation will drop as well. So I've already given this message to the Budget Committee, and I just wanted it out there for the record for the council and for the public. The next item is, as you may be aware, it's imperative that people get their flu vaccines this year to avoid a twindemic this fall and winter, with having a flu pandemic as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. With so many people working from home in the community, many people will not have their normal work vaccinations this fall. We're encouraging the public to visit their primary care physicians, medical clinics, or pharmacies to receive a vaccination. Convenient MD, for example, Rite Aid, those places can give flu shots, and we encourage as many people as possible to get their flu shots. We are going to offer the town employees to be vaccinated here at work, so they don't have to go to the primary care. We've set up a date in October, so they'll just come in and get jabbed and go back to work. So, and now the number one question I'm being asked at this time of year. We are beginning to receive many questions on Halloween, Halloween will look during the pandemic. The emergency management team is working on this. We're going to be receiving guidance shortly from the state. We reached out to the communities of the greater Seacoast um, to try to do this as a group. My biggest concern is if Durham says no and Newmarket says yes, then we will be inundated with people from Durham to go trick-or-treating and vice versa. So our thought is to do this as a group, so you don't have, what we don't want is one community getting hammered by people coming in to trick or treat. We don't want to have the crowds, and we don't want to have the people in the community having to hand out candy to all the other kids from the other communities. So we are going to be discussing that. We're going to have a webinar on September 30th, so we should have some sort of guidance the beginning of October. As I mentioned, we are working on the fiscal year 22 budget, and department heads will be presenting it to me shortly. Pursuant to the town charter, I must present a budget to town council by October 15th, and the town council must adopt the budget by November 15th. Traditionally, we've had a budget workshop on a Saturday to try to finish the budget review in one day. I'm going to propose that we hold it on Saturday, October 24th, with a backup day of the 31st. Traditionally, we start at 9 in the morning and go as much as we can that day. Just an update on the McAllen Dam. I'm getting daily emails on the project, and it's well. As of September 9th, the water drawdown was continuing. The level was about 5 feet below the top of the spillway. They began installing a temporary work pad in order to work in the river, and they're doing a lot more. They're now adding rebar to the armaments on the side of the wall, on the sides of the river, to begin that work. So it is going forward, and as of right now, no large issues. As for the facilities director, I received communications today from the superintendent of schools. We're trying to hammer out some of the details in the agreement, memorandum of understanding, and we hopefully will have that to both of our boards shortly. And that is all I have tonight in my written report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for the town manager? Counselor Kuiper.
If you don't know this off the top of your head, that's fine, but do you have any idea how much we get from the rooms and meals tax? I feel like I asked once and it was like 400,000 maybe.
It's about that.
So you can probably factor that that's gonna be about half.
I would say that. And that's not even what the state doesn't even fulfill their commitment to us for
Yeah.
the room and meals tax. We should be getting a larger amount, and we're not. So, and I can tell you already, also with the retirement system, those figures are going to be set, but we're anticipating that their return on investments didn't come through as well as they thought, so we have to cover their loss. So,
And our share of the enterprise tax, that other one, is that significant for what they get?
not a lot, no.
Not a lot, okay.
But what happens is if they don't have the revenue to cover something there, they'll take it from something else that normally would go to us.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Counselor Dumont.
Just had one quick question. I was actually going through the department reports, and it does look like the police, at least for the month of August, had far fewer interactions in terms of motor vehicle stops. Is that just from the police making kind of more being aware of coronavirus potential transmission, or is that just less need in general?
I think it's just less need in general. We're back to, March, April, May.
Mhm.
Yes, there weren't as many
Yeah.
interactions due to the coronavirus, but they're back to normal.
I was just curious
Yeah.
because it seemed like a noticeable drop. So, thank you.
I'm not seeing any other counselors to speak. I did have a couple just really quick comments about and one was that also on the police report for the first time in a bunch of years, the number of overdoses is up. So I didn't know if there's any information about why that might be, or I just wanted to mention it as something to be aware of. And then the other, looking through the Public Works Department, It's so nice to see 0 snow events. I think we've got, maybe 1 or 2 more months of that.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So, that's all I had.
They are saying we're supposed to have a milder than normal autumn. Hopefully.
Yeah, who knows,
Yeah.
right? Who knows? So, and I'm not seeing any other counselors to speak, so we will move on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports? Counselor Sanders first. Sorry.
The Arts and Tourism Committee met yesterday, and we'll be setting up a Facebook and an Instagram account so that we can keep the people in town aware of what activities. We are still working on the downtown art walk, but we've been approached by the Conservation Committee, which is doing a photo exhibit in the month of November. So we're going to be postponing the downtown art walk until after they're done with their exhibit. And we're still looking for 2 more members.
Thank you. Counselor Dumont.
Yes, just wanted to say that the Ordinance Oversight Committee will not be meeting for the foreseeable future, as we have lost one of our counselors who is sitting on the board, and it would be inappropriate to have 2 counselors hosting a meeting. The hope is to go back to that work once we have a 3rd counselor to take over, which should hopefully be in the next few weeks. And then, to my knowledge, the Budget Committee is still going to be meeting on, I believe, the 28th of September, but if that changes, I'll let you know.
Great. Thank you. I know that I can look this information up, so I will say that first, but do you think you could forward a copy of, do you have a schedule of budget committee meetings that you could forward to me?
We discussed that at the previous meeting, in general, what we were looking for. We haven't actually set the final, we're going to meet X, Y, Z. For those of you who are unaware, traditionally we'll meet every single Monday, other Monday during budget season up until we finished everything, and then just a couple extra meetings in case we have to address any items. But I will get that out to everybody as soon as we have something on paper.
That'd be awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem.
And then I have some information from Counselor Burns, who couldn't be here tonight, about the CIP meeting, an update. So I'm just going to read what she sent me. They've completed the CIP process for this year. They've met twice last week and had presentations from each department head. This past Monday, they had their final meeting and completed the CIP recommendations. Diane Hardy will be, if she hasn't already, submitting the CIP committee's recommendations to the town manager this week. And she also, Councilor Burns also said thanks again to Diane Hardy and the CIP committee members for all of their time and effort. And I think that's it. So moving on, the first item that we have in resolutions in the second reading is Resolution 2020-2021-04, the technology CRF withdrawal for the new server. And I would approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2020-2021-04 Technology CRF withdrawal for, sorry, I lost it, to purchase a new server for the town.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Did you want to?
Sure.
Thank you.
This was one that we held over for third reading for backup information. We needed to, the current servers in town are well past the normal expected minimum life of 5 years. 3 years actually recommended and need to be replaced. Some of them have been retired, and one, if functioning is functioning in limited capacity, it's only in file service, and 2 are acting as domain controllers, all requiring regular monitoring. Back Bay Network has loaned us PCs to fill in for those servers that have ceased functioning. Back Bay, for those who don't know, that's our new contracted IT services. They've done the same with switches that we've had issues with functioning as well. In addition to replacing servers, a server virtualization software needs to be used to expand the capacity of a single server into multiple, eliminating the need to purchase additional servers. To bid, and the went out to bid to 3 different IT vendors: CDWG, She, and Back Bay Network, who's our provider. The 2 vendors are large national IT system wholesalers, and Back Bay, as I mentioned, is their vendor. Each vendor was sent the same list of requirements and asked to respond as quickly as possible. Although one of them did come in lower, which was $6,595.11, the price was for the individual elements were higher than CDW and Back Bay Networks. She also left off parts that were asked for in the request that was sent, and those parts are important to increase memory, manage storage, enable connectivity to the network and other devices. The CDWG quotation was a quick turnaround and stayed almost exactly the elements requested. Total price was $8,505.46. The Back Bay Network, it departed from the original request insofar as included enhancement that would provide more bandwidth for switch connectivity and more drives for storage and management software, adding remote server management capabilities. Back Bay's came in at $8,253.90. The Technology Capital Reserve Fund is a balance of $13,049.97, and we're requesting not to exceed $12,000 through this resolution. As you can see, the price is $8,250, so that will be the amount we withdraw. So we're just recommending passage of the resolution so you can fix the servers.
Thank you. Councillor Dumont.
Yep. I just wanted to ask our town manager, so what does this look like in the 3 to 5 year timeline? This technology will carry us right through then, and then at that point we'll have to update to whatever's most
Correct.
spec.
One thing the Director of Finance Administration and Back Bay are working on are a better IT capital improvement plan that we need to do. As you know, we've been doing many things on a shoestring budget, and it's just coming back to bite us now.
Yeah.
Everything from Wi-Fi connectivity to some of the wiring in Town Hall that we just need to redo. So that's going to be part of this. That they're working on that as well. But yes, this should bring us through.
Yeah, glad to hear it. Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other comments. I do just have one quick question about the Capital Reserve Fund, the Technology Capital Reserve Fund. This leaves us with a pretty small balance, and is that, I guess it's a bigger question. It doesn't necessarily apply to the server. We obviously need to replace the server, but what do we do with that reserve fund moving forward?
Well, we'll have to look at replenishing it or including the replacements for materials in the operating budget.
Do we foresee any other items?
Yes.
In the, yep.
Not even a hesitation on that. I mean, we got to look at everything from desktops to. Right now, we're moving from the Google Suite to Microsoft's Exchange, which all you counselors should realize that at some point in time you will no longer be on Gmail. You'll be going over to the Microsoft system for your email. I can tell you that I was the second person had done it. They went today, but those are the kind of things that we're looking at because it's a much more robust system that is better for business. Even though the schools use Gmail and Google, it's not as robust for our side, especially spreadsheets and email and stuff like that. So those are things that we're just looking at and just trying to update so we can do that. So there'll be some additional costs. Not a lot, but some.
Okay. I'm not seeing any others, so if you could call the roll.
Council Brayback.
Aye.
Council Sanders.
Aye.
Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
So the next item is Resolution 2020-2021-05, the Aggregation Committee, and I would accept a motion to approve that.
I will make a motion to accept Resolution 2020-2021-05 Electric Aggregation Committee.
So I will do my best. I am definitely not an expert in the electric aggregation committee realm or community power, which is what this is for. But I am the town council rep to the Energy and Environment Committee, and so the chair was planning to be here but wasn't able to make it. So I'm gonna do my best to explain. I did send out earlier today the presentation that it was a PowerPoint presentation that we had received from Clean Energy NH that gave some background into what community power is. And what this resolution does is really, it just empowers the Energy and Environment Committee to act as the electric aggregation committee to start to explore. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't, there's no other power that an electric aggregation committee would have, or that the Energy and Environment Committee would have. It just allows us to, it starts the process. So, Councillor Dumont.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
That shouldn't be there. My apologies.
Does anyone have any questions about community power that I could maybe answer, or or the work that the Energy and Environment Committee is trying to do? So I'm seeing none, so if you could call the roll, Steve.
Council Brayback.
Aye.
Council Sanders.
Aye.
Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great. The next item is Resolution 2020-2021-06 to authorize the town manager to sign and submit the community development block grants. And I would accept a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2020/2021-06 to authorize the town manager to sign and submit the CDBG grants.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Please.
I'd ask the council to amend the resolution as follows. In the first whereas, to read the Community Development Block Grant, whereas Community Development Block Grant funds are available through New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority to assist projects, programs that primarily benefit low and moderate income persons' households. CDBG up to $500,000 for facility projects, up to $500,000 for housing projects, up to $500,000 in economic development projects, and up to $350,000 in emergency fund, and up to $25,000 for planning study grants are available. And add CDBG CV up to $500,000 available for eligible COVID-related costs. In the second whereas, I'd ask that we add a section 2, an application to the CDFA in an amount of $500,000 in CDBG CV funds to assist the town and nonprofit agencies with eligible COVID-related costs starting January 1st, 2021. Applicants in this application are the Town Welfare, Town Recreation, Child Care, Sunrise Sunset Center, Newmarket Housing Authority, and Newmarket Community Church Service Provider. And as well as to add a third whereas that states to approve the submittal of the proposed CDBG CV application to assist the town and nonprofit organizations related costs, vote to authorize the town manager to sign and submit the CDBG CV application, and upon approval of the CDBG CV application, authorize the town manager to execute any documents which may be necessary to effectuate the CDBG contract and any amendments thereto.
I will make a motion to amend into the resolution, into the first whereas, the underlined text, to add the second bullet point with underlined text listed, and the third point under now therefore be it resolved as underlined and read by the town manager.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I want to apologize to the council for those amendments. Again, that's not what was presented to the council, and I do not like amending resolutions that go before the council so significantly. However, these are some funds that are available. I'm upset with the short amount of time that the council had to review this, but as you are aware, we received it at the same time basically as we were telling the council. immediately before the last meeting, and we'll make sure this does not happen again. I know I've said that in the past, and shame on me for doing that, but next time it just won't go through. Thought this, due to the COVID-19, that this was a significant amount of money that we just needed, so I apologize.
Thank you. It is a significant amount of money, so it's hard to
Right.
deny that for procedural reasons. So this would be for the amendment. So if you could, I'm not seeing any comments or questions, so if you would go ahead and call the roll, please.
Council Brayback.
Aye.
Council Sanders.
Aye.
Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And then for the resolution would be the next item. So does anyone have any questions or comments about the resolution itself now that it's amended? Then if you go ahead and call the roll.
Council Brayback.
Aye.
Council Sanders.
Aye.
Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great. Thank you. The next item that we have, there are no, first I should mention, there are no appointments or nominations to consider. So moving on to resolutions in the first reading. First resolution that we have is 2021-07. The wastewater treatment plant Tide Flex diffuser replacement. Whereas it has been determined that the 20 diffusers on the wastewater treatment plant's outfall pipe need to be replaced, and whereas the wastewater department has set aside $35,000 in its capital reserves for the diffusers replacement, and whereas the wastewater department has received a quote for the diffusers from Red Valve for a sum of $27,580. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the Newmarket Town Council approves the withdrawal of $29,000 from the wastewater department's capital reserves for the purchase plus shipping of 20 Tide Flex diffusers. First reading September 16th, 2020. The second item is resolution 2020-2021-08 to enter into a lease agreement with SAU 31. To authorize the town manager to sign and enter into a lease agreement, which is Appendix A, with the SAU 31 for property depicted on Appendix B, tax map lot 42, designated as Leo Landroche Field Complex. Whereas the term of this lease shall be for a period of 25 years. Following its initial term, the lease shall automatically renew for successive 10-year terms in perpetuity. Whereas rent during the term of this lease shall be $1 and no dollars annually, or $1 annually payable in advance. Whereas to meet state and federal regulations for the use of land and water conservation funding, matching grant, in the development and construction of a splash pad with a water treatment system and restroom facility and said property. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the Newmarket Town Council hereby votes to approve the town of Newmarket, New Hampshire to enter into a lease agreement with SAU 31 and hereby authorize the town manager to execute the signing of said lease on the town's behalf per resolution 2020-2021-08. First reading September 16th, 2020. The next item that we have, so we have correspondence to the town council.
We do.
We do have 2 letters to review. Should I read?
I can read them.
Okay.
Honorable Newmarket Town Council, we are Gail and Bill Nordstrom from 33 Doe Farm Lane and wish to petition the council to consider a change to a town ordinance. At issue is the inability of a resident to have an accessory dwelling unit in a building such as a garage that is not attached to the residence. At this time, an accessory dwelling is permitted in a garage type structure if it's attached to the home. We feel that this is arbitrary and serves as no useful purpose to control unwanted growth. The state encourages this type of accessory dwelling to help relieve the housing shortage we're experiencing, and has definite regulations to ensure that the intent of the law is maintained. Our particular case is about our need to make a living area on the second floor of our garage as quarters for family and as some added income for us in our retired years. The unit would be under 700 square feet, and we feel not a detriment to our neighborhood. We appreciate the council's attention to this issue and hope that a fair resolution can be found. If we can provide more information or ideas, please do not hesitate to call. Gil and Bill Nordstrom, 33 Deal Farm Lane.
Excuse me. Thank you. The next item that we have is a letter from Christian Matthews, and I can go ahead and read that. Sure. Dear members of the Town Council, Planning Board, and Steve, deepest regrets that I am resigning from the Town Council and my board committee assignments effective immediately. 2 weeks ago, my wife and I were given the opportunity to move to Vermont, and we are taking it. We are in the process of selling our home, and we are moving on October 16th. If you'd asked us 3 weeks ago if we'd be moving, we'd call you crazy. This pandemic is really making people reevaluate their lives, including us. I know that this is going to cause another round of committee assignments, and I apologize for that. However, I do not think it would be appropriate for me to be in any of the future joint meetings that are going to be so critical for our town's future. I wish you all the best in making well-researched and informed decisions, and know that you are all doing the best job you can. Please keep looking out for our town staff and residents, especially our most vulnerable. Sincerely, Christian Matthews.
We need a motion to accept. Usually you do it with regret.
I will make a motion with regret to accept Councilor Christian Matthews' letter of resignation.
Thank you.
Procedurally, by charter, if you accept the resignation, then the vacancy as occurs, you must fill it at the next regularly scheduled meeting. We'll post this as we did with Councilor Finch resign, and you'll have the nomination, the interested parties for the next meeting, at which time you'll appoint them. Don't think it's been that long since you've gone through the process, so I think you're pretty familiar.
Councilor Dumont, did you want to speak to this issue?
Actually, that's something different. I just wanted to confirm that would be October 7th as the next meeting.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, what did we say the time frame would be for interested parties?
What we'd probably do is they would have to submit a letter of interest by October 30th at noon, because that's the closing
September.
of the, I'm sorry, September, because that's the closing of the packet.
Okay. Yep, so that gives people 2 weeks. So Councilor Dumont, is that for, no?
After.
Okay.
It was before you read the letter.
Okay. Councilor Brayback?
I just had a question about whether there are any sort of rules or regulations around how we can spread the word about that vacancy.
Nope, we post it, we try to get it to the press, we put it on Facebook, website, town newsletter. People want to share it, please feel free to share. But yeah, we try to get as much as we can.
Great, thank you.
I would like to.
Okay.
I would just say, if you are thinking of someone, please recommend them. Because a lot of people, and what I found out when we did the first round to replace Councilor Finch, even though we made the postings, didn't quite realize, like, oh, there's actually an open spot on the town's governing board. So if you're listening to this, if you know somebody who wants to get involved, if you're someone who sees a lot, especially, you're always commenting on Facebook posts about how you'd like to change things in town and, share your visions and ideas, please come forward. It is really, really important that you step up and try to make that difference in your community.
And I apologize if you already said this, but the way that the process works is that this person will serve through March.
Correct.
So it's a relatively short commitment. It can be a nice
Test drive.
taste. Yes, test run, exactly.
So in March, we'll have 2 seats open for 3 years and 2 seats open for 2 years.
Right. So, with all of that said, if you could call the roll.
Council Brayback.
Aye.
Council Sanders.
Aye.
Council Dumont.
Nay.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Wish Councillor Matthews the best. Councillor Matthews and his
Wife.
wife Nicole, who also served on the Energy and Environment Committee. So we wish them both the best in Vermont. Okay, moving on. Any closing comments by town councilors? Councillor Dumont.
Hey, there it is. So I had actually wanted to speak to the Gail and Bill Nordstrom's letter that was submitted. And I'm very upset that we have lost Councillor Matthews, because this is something that he has been pushing for both on the planning board, with the town council, and behind the scenes. So to allay perhaps some of their concerns, I'd like to say that, to my knowledge, this is something that the planning board is still considering and investigating. I personally think that as a council we should move forward with trying to acquiesce the request listed here. But I think that as a council it is very positive for the town to really explore those extra housing options that we do have available, and removing arbitrary restrictions between, attached or detached. And if there are other citizens out there who would like to make their concerns known because they want to have the similar access that folks with attached units do, please continue to send in your letters, send them into the planning board, send them into the town council, send them into folks who are in positions who are able to make change, because it's the only way that we're able to act in the appropriate manner is if we know just how many of you are out there, advocating for this.
Thank you. Councillor Kuiper.
Yeah, I also would like to see a change to the ordinance to allow non-attached accessory dwelling units. Do we need the planning board to do that first? Or
Traditionally, you do.
Because I know Councillor Cass brought it up, which was in February, and I know that they talked about it because I was at the meeting, but I'm just wondering, we haven't heard anything back.
We're going to have a joint meeting with the planning board in October.
Yeah.
Maybe we could address that with them at that point in time.
Because I know there's a lot of people in town who have had this issue. In case you don't understand, literally, if your garage is 1 inch away from your house but not attached, you can't put an apartment in it. But if it's attached, you can. And no one I've ever talked to has ever known why that would be the case. And when I was on the zoning board, the first meeting we had in 2016, the first person that got up there was a guy who wanted to put an apartment in his parents' garage so that he could take care of them as they were aging. And literally everyone on the board was in agreement that that it would be a good thing he should be able to do, but it just was not allowed. And so I think if we could do that, bring it up with them, because it just seems really arbitrary and frustrates, a lot of people. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Brayback.
I suppose mine is a question, but along these lines, it concerns me to have this gap of time where we don't have a town councilor on the planning board. Are we going to be doing committee assignments next meeting after we appoint someone, or will there have to be a gap in another meeting? Will have to be the following meeting after that? Does that make sense?
I would suggest you do it as soon as possible due to the budget. We have a number of planning board issues coming up. So, yeah. I don't know why we're losing lights, but yeah.
Sending us out.
Right.
But yes, I would suggest doing it at the meeting.
So it is possible for us to do it at that
Yep.
meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Because it's really just the planning board, right? That's vacant.
Right.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. And Councillor Dumont. Sorry.
I did actually want to ask the town manager in relation to Councillor Kuiper's question. For planning actions to changes to happen, you said it's traditional and it goes through the planning board first, then it would come to the council.
Correct.
Is that a formal recommendation from the planning board outlining the specifics and then the town adopting an ordinance stating as such, or
Usually
mechanism-wide, what would that look like?
Usually they come up with a draft ordinance and
Okay.
propose it to the town council. Council has the right to amend any ordinances they want as a legislative body of the town. But traditionally, the planning board, as the planning, elected planning body,
Mhm.
comes up with the draft and the council
Right.
reviews and adopts.
Theoretically, then they could give us an ordinance that just excises the word attached.
Mhm.
Oh, all right, easy.
Do you know offhand what the date is for our joint meeting?
I think it's the second one in October.
Okay. So it's at our meeting?
Yes.
It's the 21st?
Yeah,
then?
would begin at 6 o'clock.
Steve,
And I wanted to, I'm not seeing any other lights, I wanted to remind everyone that we do have a joint
Before
meeting with
you-
the school board planned for next week, which is the 23rd. I did ask the
On
school
date.
board chair, and he was gonna poll his board as to whether or not it could potentially be pushed to the 30th. And I'm curious how if that's even a possibility for this group.
One of the items is we'd like to have the facilities director MOU hammered out before we meet, because that was like the big issue that we wanted to discuss.
Right.
And we're
I'm sorry,
the 30th.
the 30th. Potentially. So hopefully I will hear back from Mike Kennison as to whether or not they would be able to meet on the 30th. I would check with this board to see if people would be able to meet on the 30th. If not, we would keep it to the 23rd.
I'm available on either's fine.
Okay.
Is that at 7 o'clock as well?
6 o'clock.
6.
Yep. And we were going to start it with a non-public meeting.
Regarding security.
Yep. And although I do need to confirm this, we did talk when we talked about having this meeting. We talked about having it at the high school, and so I'm assuming that was still the case. We can't all fit here, so with both boards, I can't imagine that it wouldn't be okay. But so I'll get back to everyone. Hopefully, I would imagine Friday morning. Great. Then I'm not seeing any other requests to speak. So with that, I will consider us adjourned.